Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolfork. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together.
Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And as I say every week, this is a very special episode because this episode is updating you on my life in Boston and the book life that being in Boston has prepared me for. Essentially, I am going to be sharing a series of updates. And if you've been following on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and other places, I do my best to provide regular updates. But this episode gives me a chance to go into a bit more detail about what this transition to Massachusetts has meant, what it is for, how long it's going to last, and to just give you a bit more updates about the time and experience and the work that I've been doing since I have been there. I want to divide the conversation today into book updates, which is a bit about the research and writing that I'm doing, and then about Boston updates, about how life in a larger city has been and the kind of adjustments that I've been making, and happy and grateful to do so. To begin, I am working on 2 books. I am writing a book called Black Women Stitch Liberation. It's an academic study where we are looking at certain elements of Black women's sewing as a critical apparatus, as a way to explore and understand Black women's meaning making and sewing practices in this way. There hasn't been a lot of work on Black women's apparel in particular. There's a lot of work on quilting, on Black women's quilting, on quilts in general, but not as much on making garments, making apparel, making clothing. And that is where my focus and concentration has been geared toward. Thinking about apparel in particular as a really important tool for self-making, for meaning making, and for understanding and engaging the world around us. Clothes are really important for that. They really are a vital step in that process. I'm also working on a book called Stitch Please. That's right, a Stitch Please book about the Stitch Please podcast, how I got started, why it does what it does, and most importantly, featuring some amazing Black women creatives that I have spoken to over the years. The first section I'm working on actually is about Christine Mays and her connections with the work that she does with Sasha Huber. These were 2 amazing episodes, 2 completely different artists, but the work that they've created is so powerful, so responsive, and such an honor to the ancestors. And so I'm working on that in tandem with the Black Women Stitch Liberation book. It has been a really exciting time, and I've been so grateful for the opportunity to hold these 2, as I see them, really important expressions of Black women's selfhood, meaning making, creativity, and all of that through home sewing. And I'm just so excited about all of it. As I see it, I am in Boston for the next 9 months to have a book baby or maybe twins. That is how I've been seeing it. I am in Boston to have a book baby and maybe twins. I am really honored and grateful to have been accepted as a fellow for the Susan Newhouse Center for the Humanities at Wellesley College. The Susan Newhouse Center has been fantastic in a lot of ways for my work so far. They create a beautiful space. It's a gorgeous facility. It also has a full kitchen with a microwave and a refrigerator and stuff like that. And they often have like lunchtime events. So there's like lunch around. All the fellows have offices right next to each other. And that's been really great for us kind of getting to know each other a bit. We also, I think our fellowship class really likes each other. So we get together on Wednesdays for co-writing or co-working, where we just sit in the conference room and just right together. It's kind of like little kids having parallel play. Everybody's doing their own thing. And then you look up and see that everybody else is doing their own thing. And it's like, I am happy to be doing my own thing next to other people also doing their own thing. It really is a big, happy, loving nerd fest. People that are working on a variety of academic projects, and we can kind of sharpen each other. They say iron sharpens iron. Even though we're coming from different disciplines, different departments, when we share each other's work, there's information that we can share that can be helpful to one another. And that's one of the great things about the fellowship class that the Wellesley Susan Newhouse Center for the Humanities has created. Let me tell you just a bit about the Humanities Center and what it is and what it does. And this is me reading from their website. I can attest to the real life energy of this place, and it has been utterly energizing. So the Susan Newhouse Center for the Humanities is an inclusive place for faculty, staff, students, and visiting fellows to gather in community for lively discussion, research, and learning about the topics that matter most to us. We are committed to supporting visionary work in the humanities that centers interdisciplinarity, collaboration, creativity, joy, and wonder. We honor our own and our community's transformations, and we affirm one another's growth and development. We expect all community members to adhere to our shared values and respect the differences that make us a rich and diverse community. Learning in community is crucial for our development as thinkers and human beings. It means we learn to see ideas, not just through our own singular and limited perspectives, but to see how different experiences create multiple ways of thinking about the world, of comprehending and applying ideas. This has been, I think even just reading this paragraph to you all right now is a reminder of what my experience has been like for the last 6 weeks as a fellow at the Susan Newhouse Center. It has been a great home for this work, and the other fellows that also have the fellowship, the way that we come together and connect, it really is putting these ideas into practice. One event that they recently had that was utterly amazing, and I'll share that with y'all by way of a little bit about what the center does, was this fantastic program on Black feminist world making. It was so good. It was a 3-way conversation with N.K. Jemisin, Pemi Aguada, and Yvette Nodevlu. It was a beautiful conversation. N.K. Jemisin being a world-renowned Black sci-fi and speculative fiction writer, Pemi Aguada, another really exciting up-and-coming writer, very well-renowned. And then Yvette Nodevlu, she is a visiting professor at Wellesley College and also an amazing writer. And this conversation that they had really opened my eyes to some interesting things. And I'll just leave you with this one thing. One of the questions that the Professor Yvette Nodevlu asked was, when she's teaching her class, she asked students, what does this writer make possible for you? And it really makes me remember that fiction, as well as any other kind of writing, is really an invitation to an imaginative process. It's an invitation to think differently, to move differently. And when we see what other writers do, especially if a writer is brave, is bold, is creative, is on the cutting edge, is unafraid, then that can help us do the same. And so that question really stuck out with me, and it really makes me appreciate the time that I have at the Susan Newhouse Center that much more, because I know that's something that they also prioritize, which is discovery, uncovering, creating new forms of knowledge, updating things that are old, all of these things that we want in a thriving, active, learning environment is what they are working to create. And I feel very fortunate to be a part of it. Recently, I presented my work at the Newhouse Center for the other fellows, and it was a really great time. I was very nervous. I had been working on this for a really long time, and it can sometimes feel like when you're holding something close to your chest for a while, like, I just don't know if this is ready to be seen, or let me just work on it some more. Or, my thing is always, I never think that I know enough. And so I always have to go back and read some more books, read some more articles, get some more quotes. And that can become another form of distraction where you feel like you are hyper over prepared. And I think that I realized in part of the process is that I was not letting any joy come in. I was so worried about wanting to do a good job and wanting to pursue the fellowship well and wanting to make sure I was representing the ideas I was crafting well. And all of that anxiety was unnecessary. I was able to share my work and my writing in an environment of people who also wanted the best for it. And that was a really beautiful reminder of what it means to be in a learning community. And that is something that I have felt during the time at the Susan Newhouse Center. Wellesley College is also really beautiful. It is a really nice looking campus. I say this as somebody who comes from a really nice looking campus that is often cited. Actually, the campus where I work, my primary job that I've had for the last 24 years, has been at an institution that is the only American university on the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. It's a beautiful place. Wellesley is beautiful in a different way. And I think I've noticed this when I go to colleges and universities that are not in the South, because I'm able to enjoy the beauty of the place without having to remember that it was made with stolen labor.
Hey friends, hey, I know you're enjoying the audio version of Stitch Please, and thanks so much for listening. But you're missing out on all the great stuff going on behind the scenes. That's why I'm inviting you to join our Black Women Stitch Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can see all the video versions of the podcast. Plus, you get some amazing swatch cards. You know how much I love these swatch cards. Look, see how cool these are? You can't see them because you are not yet on the Patreon. So when you join the Patreon, you'll be able to see this, me showing you these amazing cards. We also have some great perks at the other tiers, like discounts, swag, office hours, and more. Don't be the last sewist in the group now. Head over to patreon.com/blackwomenstitch or click the link in the show notes and become a Patreon supporter today. We truly cannot do this without you. So thank you so much.
The history of enslavement on the campus where I am is incredibly strong. And this is something that the university itself has been working to address. We recently have a really beautiful memorial to enslaved workers. These are things that they are paying attention to. And this is not to say that schools in the North, especially if you think about Brown College, which owes a lot of its own existence to slavery. Similarly to Georgetown, that's another university that owes its existence to slavery, either the trading and selling of people to build the university, to get funds for the university, or just as in with Brown College, a lot of its early money came through the slave trade. People don't know that Rhode Island was a very hopping trade site. And I don't know if Wellesley College has that. It might have that. It's not as obvious and in your face. And so this is not to say that this is an oppression-free campus. I would never say that no campus is oppression-free. But I think when I look at the buildings, I tend not to see it there. Now, if y'all know different, tell me, because, I will print a retraction. I will say, oh, wait, my bad. But it's just so wonderful. And it's also really interesting. We did a great tour, and I learned that as part of their PE requirement, requirement PE, I was required to take PE. My PE requirement, I took racquetball, which I really enjoyed. They can take sailing. You can learn to sail a boat. You can also learn horseback riding, like horseback riding for PE. So that is something I think, about elite institutions, which we have to admit that Wellesley College is an elite institution. It's one of what's called the Seven Sisters, which is almost like an Ivy League for women's colleges. And it is one of those old school elite Ivy schools. And so you get this gorgeous, gorgeous campus. And you can, if you're a student, you can learn to sail a boat or do horseback riding for your PE requirement, which I thought was pretty amazing. In this next section, I want to talk about life in Boston in general. Wellesley College is in Wellesley, Massachusetts. It's about a 45-minute drive, I believe, from Boston, but it is a very short 20-minute commuter train away from the city of Boston. The fellowship is a residential fellowship, but it did not include housing. So that was definitely a challenge in finding a place. At first, I was looking around in Wellesley and I couldn't find anything. And so I started to look in the outlying areas, Newton, Natick, Framingham, all of these other places. But I realized that I wanted for my fellowship to be in an environment that was very different than the one that I currently live in at home. Charlottesville is a very small town. It is a driving town. Everything is a driving distance away. It is not very walkable. We do have a great downtown mall that's pedestrian and lots of places and bikes. But in terms of like walking from place to place, that's not something you can really do easily here. And so when I was thinking about a place to stay, I said, I want to be in Boston. I want to be in a walkable community. I want to be in a place that's very close to the commuter rail. I mean, honestly, y'all, if I could have gotten an apartment in the commuter rail station, I would have been like, yay. That was what I was thinking until I went to the commuter rail station and was like, oh, no, absolutely not. I would not want to live here. And so I am about, I think, a brisk 7-minute walk from my apartment to the commuter station, a brisk 7-minute walk, which is more like the fastest walk possible. If I really want to give myself some break, I will leave 15 minutes before the train. I'll leave at 5 minutes to 7. The train comes at 7:16. And if I leave at 7, I can walk out the door. I can drop trash in the recycling. I don't have to worry, etc. However, what I have tended to do is to leave at 7:07, which is not a great time to catch a 7:16 train, especially since I have noticed that sometimes they come like 1 minute early. And I tell you what, they're not going to wait until 7:16 to leave. They're going to leave when everybody on the platform is there. And there have been quite a few times when my 7-minute walk turned into a 30-second run to catch the train and to get in the line with everybody else. Another great adjustment has been my living situation. I am in a 2-room apartment. It is more like a jumbo studio. They call it a 1-bedroom apartment because you can fit 1 bed in there. Adjusting to a living space that's about 375 square feet after being in a 3-bedroom house for almost 30 years is a big adjustment. Another big adjustment is that my apartment is on the top floor of the building. It's the 3rd floor, but luckily there's only 2 flights of stairs instead of 3 flights, but there is no elevator. So I'm taking the stairs every single day to get in and out and to go places. One of the most profound changes since I relocated to Massachusetts is all the walking. I walk all the time. Now, this is what I wanted. Remember, I wanted to be in a place where I could walk. We have 2 cars. My spouse uses a car and my son uses a car. I had no plans to bring a car to Massachusetts because parking is expensive. And honestly, I did not want to drive on the same roads that the Massachusetts drivers were driving on. Because when I tell you, those folks and the way that traffic laws work, it's all very different. It's remember how I was saying before, when you go to California and you get on the road and it's 2 miles away, but it's going to take you 45 minutes to get there because the physics of what makes traffic flow work in Los Angeles is different in other places. That's also true for Massachusetts, not so much by covering distance, but the amount of rage that you see on the road, as well as the very organic way of driving and using traffic signals, for example. The turn signals that come in most vehicles, I don't think are functional or operational in the vehicles driven in Massachusetts, because I saw someone who had to get off the highway. They were in the left lane of a 3-lane road, or maybe the left lane of a 2-lane, drive past both lanes and ride over the median so they could get to the exit. It was alarming. And I was told that there's a word for that, and for Massachusetts drivers in general, and it's called mass holes, which I thought was very funny. I have loved all the walking. I have been walking to the grocery store. So I'll walk to Trader Joe's, I'll walk to Whole Foods, I'll walk to Star Market. And one great thing about walking to buy your groceries, friend, is it will help your budget. Because when I tell you, I got so resentful that the ketchup that I wanted only came in 16-ounce bottles, I was like, I do not want to carry a pound of ketchup. Why do I want this? I ended up getting it because I do like to have ketchup if I ever make fries or something. But like, it was that serious to me that I have to carry, you have to carry everything. And some say, well, you should get a cart or get a Hulkin bag. I've seen the Hulkin bags. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have more than I can carry. I have been getting delivery of heavy things. So I love LaCroix. So I get LaCroix delivered. But the other ones, I'd much rather go and pick out my own produce and that kind of thing. But everything that I pick has to be carried back by hand. It's gotten so bad, y'all, or maybe so good, y'all. I do not even get a shopping cart when I go grocery shopping. I have a couple of bags. I put stuff in those bags so that I can feel how it's going to feel as I'm walking around. Like, okay, this is getting a little heavy. We are not going to get a pound of sugar. Absolutely not. And so that has been really a good way to kind of save money, I guess. I have enjoyed all the walking. I have an Apple Watch and it measures how much I walk. And when I first got there, my watch was like, what is happening? I mean, I walked at least maybe 300% more than I ever did when I was at home driving everywhere or being really sedentary. And so being in Boston has been really great for just building up my walking, which feels really good. Thank y'all so much for listening to this episode. Thank you for listening to me talk about my Boston and book updates, my time at the Susan Newhouse Center at Wellesley College. Thank you for your time and attention and for your generous support. The fact that I'm able to pursue this fellowship, to do this work, to write these books, to do this research is a direct testament to the generosity of community. And I am very grateful. So if you also would love to know more, I give regular updates on Patreon. So do check out the Black Women Stitch Patreon. That type of monthly regular support is incredibly important for the project overall. So thank y'all so much for listening to this episode, and we will see you next time. Bye.
You've been listening to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you joining us this week and every week for stories that center Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. We invite you to join the Black Women Stitch Patreon community with giving levels beginning at $5 a month. Your contributions help us bring the Stitch Please podcast to you every week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support, and come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.